Debt is just a spending problem. Hey, business owners, let's talk about spending. So we're here with our Wealthy Business Owners series where we're blowing up what it means to be good with money. We're blowing up all the preconceived notions of what it means to be good with money. And we're talking about spending today. Spending is, I think, the most underrated skill in money. Everybody talks about budgeting and debt and investing and all those things, and they're great, and we'll talk about them too. But spending, I think, is the foundational skill that most people are not learning or not even realizing they should learn. Now, before we dive in, you might be wondering, if you heard the intro, we're going to be talking about spending, managing, saving, investing, and wealth building. And you may be wondering, Gina, why is debt not on the list? Debt is not on the list because debt is just a spending problem. Okay? Debt is just a spending problem. If we look at business debt specifically, the only reason you have business debt is because you're spending money on something in the business that is not moving the needle. It's truly that simple. You're spending money on something and it is not moving the needle, meaning you are not making more money than you're spending. And especially when it comes to debt, that can be tricky because debt comes with a fee, interest, right? So if I spend $10,000 on something and I make $10,000 in return, I am now in the negative because I have to account for the interest that the debt cost me. So business debt is just a spending problem. All we have to do is look at your P&L and look at your expenses and tweak some stuff. If you want to learn more about that, I have an entire spender series that we did that is still so good and so relevant. I believe it's episodes 109 through 114 on the podcast. We've referenced it so much. Go take a listen to that. But business debt is just a spending problem. Personal debt, on the other hand, is just a spending problem as well. And 9 times out of 10, it's because you are spending money to buy an emotion or to escape an emotion. Okay, so I want to feel better. I want to feel good. I want to feel relaxed. I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want to feel overwhelmed. Debt in personal finances, 9 times out of 10, is you trying to buy a feeling. Now, there's some exceptions. The exceptions being emergencies, right? Medical emergencies, home emergencies, that kind of thing. In that scenario, you're just trying to manage an emergency. And the other is asset buying debt, where you're buying debt like a home, or that one can actually be buying an emotion too. Sometimes they get commingled, buying a home, student loans, that kind of thing. But 9 times out of 10, personal debt is because you're trying to buy a feeling or escape a feeling. Okay. So when you listen to this episode around spending, I also want you to have the in the back of your mind that debt falls under this. Okay. All right. Let's talk about what people who are good with money think. People who are good with money think spending a lot of money is bad and spending less money is good. Have you ever thought this? Have you ever believed this? Do you actively believe this right now? Have you ever been told this? Now, there's nothing wrong with this, right? On the surface, yeah, sure, it's true. Money in, money out. Spending a ton of money is bad and spending less money is good. It will grow my net worth if I spend less money. But we need to move beyond just being good with money, and we need to start thinking like wealthy business owners. All right. So what does a wealthy business owner think instead? A wealthy business owner thinks a little bit differently. They think spending money on something that moves the needle exponentially is good. The more money I can spend on that, the better. Spending less money oftentimes will impact my income. Notice how it's slightly different. And you may say, okay, Gina, like we know, okay, blah, 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 whatever. But I really want you to sit here for a minute, because when we internalize the rule, spending a lot of money is bad and spending less money is good, we will do that, or we will strive to do that. We will act that out, right? And we will do that in our personal finances and in our business. And the problem is, remember, as business owners, our business is oftentimes the primary income generator in the household. If we cut back spending just to cut back spending, that will not always have good outcomes. That will not always lead to increased profit. Instead, what we want to do is spend more money on the things that do the most for us and spend less money on the things that are not moving the needle, right? Going back to debt, this is the whole skill. We want to spend more money on the things that do stuff for us and less money on the things that don't. And I can't tell you how much this changed my business when I realized this, because, I come from more of a traditional personal finance background. I did the budgeting, I did the YNAB. I really was like in it with the budget and the saving. I was in the FIRE movement. And so I really learned this. I really learned spending less money is good. And I would try and budget my way to all different types of things. I did budget travel. I would thrift shop, right? I was always thinking about how can I reduce spending. But when it came to my business, this really bit me in the butt. This really did not help me. The minute I learned this is the minute everything changed. I remember I was looking up something for my clients and I was sitting down and I mapped out the following map. I did every year I was in business so far. I think it was just 3 years. And I wrote, what was my revenue for that year? Okay, so 2020, it was about $28,000. 2021, 115,000, 2022, 273,000. All right. And then in a separate column, I had 2 columns. I had what did I spend money on that moved the needle? And what did I spend money on that didn't move the needle for each year? And I literally just went back into my P&Ls for those years and I identified what were the big business investments I made that moved the needle and didn't move the needle. And the result was shocking, absolutely shocking. In 2020, when I only made $28,000, I spent about $15,000 on stuff that did not move the needle. And I spent about $2,000 on something that did move the needle. For 2021, I made $115,000 and I spent about $15,000 on things that did move the needle and about, what was it? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was somewhere around $7,000 on things that didn't move the needle. In 2023, when I made $273,000, the numbers kept shifting. I kept decreasing the amount of money I spent on things that didn't move the needle and increasing the amount of money I spent on things that did move the needle. So I think in that year, I spent closer to $50,000 on things that did move the needle and maybe like $5,000 on things that didn't. And so on and so forth. And I've continued keeping up this little spreadsheet that I have, and the pattern persists. So when I sat down and I really thought about that, the lesson that I took out of it was really freeing for me. Freeing for me, especially at that time when I was someone who always felt like I'm bad at marketing. I'm not good at persuading people. I'm not good at these tactics. I really felt like I struggled with marketing for the first 3 years in my business. But when I sat down and I saw these numbers, my entire mindset shifted. And the thought that I now have is, if I want to increase my revenue in my business, all I have to do is spend more money on things that move the needle. That is it. And that just like broke my brain for a minute, because it stopped becoming about being good with marketing or bad with marketing. It stopped becoming, what opportunities am I getting and what opportunities am I not getting? And all it became is, how do I identify what things move the needle? And how do I identify what things don't? And how do I keep spending more and more and more there? It broke the rule. The rule was spending a lot of money is bad, spending less money is good. This completely broke the rule, and it has helped me double my revenue in business every single year for the last 5 years. I've literally doubled. I don't know if that will continue. Eventually, that rate of growth is probably unsustainable, but To go from making $28,000 in revenue to this year, I'm on track for 2 million. It was that. It wasn't some messaging hierarchy. It wasn't an Instagram strategy. It wasn't that all of a sudden I became this like guru marketer. It was I identified what to spend money on. And if you want to be a wealthy business owner, this should be the number one skill that you are working on in your business finance. If you do nothing else, like if you don't even listen to the rest of this series, if you do nothing else, this should be the number one skill that you are working on. I gave my clients a little worksheet, and I'll just verbally tell it to you because you could do this on a piece of paper. It's really simple. All you're going to do is do what I did. You're going to write down the revenue from that year, and then you're going to write down and you're going to go through your expenses. And you don't have to go through every little expense. Just think about what did you invest in your business in that year, right? Did you invest in equipment? Did you invest in coaching? Did you invest in a ton of employees or team members? Did you invest in inventory, right? What did you invest in that year? And there might be multiple things. And I want you to ask yourself, did this move the needle? Did this not move the needle? And you'll know, okay? Just trust that you will know. And you have to be honest with yourself, all right? If you spent $2,000 on, I'm going to use a wedding photographer example. Let's say you're a wedding photographer and you spent $2,000 on a drone so that you could do aerial footage of weddings. But then you only got like one person who added that on to your package for the last year. You know that you spent money on equipment and it didn't move the needle. That's how I want you to think about it, okay? If you spend money on coaching, you know if it actually helped you grow or not. The numbers will tell you. If you spend money on inventory, you know if it sold or not. So I want you to be honest. Did it move the needle? Did it not move the needle? Then for every single thing that didn't move the needle, you're going to ask yourself the following questions. Number one, what was I thinking when I spent this money? Now, not like, what was I thinking? But like, actually, what was my thought process behind investing in this thing? What was I thinking when I spent this money? And then number two, what was I feeling in my body when I spent this money? And a feeling, by the way, if you don't know, a feeling is just one word. It's not, I was feeling like blah, 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 blah. A feeling is, I was feeling excited. I was feeling anxious. I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling happy. I was feeling a feeling, right? An emotion. So you're going to do that for all the things that didn't move the needle and all the things that did move the needle. And what you're going to find is patterns. Okay. You're just going to find patterns. And the interesting thing is, a lot of times people think, the money that didn't move the needle, I was most likely feeling a bad feeling when I made that investment, right? Like bad feelings lead to bad outcomes or good feelings lead to good outcomes. That is not necessarily true. For some of you, it will be. For me, it's absolutely not true. Every single investment I've made in my business that didn't move the needle, my feeling was excitement. Like every single one, every single major investment in my business that did move the needle, my feeling was a little bit of like resignation or what's that feeling? Like tension. And the reason why for me is because when I invested in things that made me feel resignation or tension, it's because I was finally addressing a problem I had been avoiding for a long time and fixing it. That doesn't always feel exciting or fun. Right? And most times it doesn't. And then all the times I wasted money that didn't move the needle, I was feeling excited. I was feeling like, oh, this will be so fun, right? But my business doesn't need me to focus on things that are fun. My business needs me to fix the problems. So you're going to do that exercise and you're going to learn a lot about yourself. Now let's move over to your personal finances for a minute. Okay? Spending a lot of money is bad. Spending less money is good. A wealthy business owner, again, thinks spending a lot of money on something that moves the needle is good. Spending less money is not good or bad. So what I want you to do is sit down and look at your expenses. And I want you to ask yourself, what feeling was I trying to buy with this expense? Or what feeling was I trying to avoid with this expense? Now, you may say, okay, Gina, I wasn't trying to buy a feeling with my utility bill or avoid a feeling with my utility bill. That's fine. You can decide which categories you do this with. But I do want you to push yourself. It's easier with like the ancillary spending, right? With the clothing and the travel and the eating out. It's easy to do it with those things. But I also do want you to do it with your bills as well. Specifically, if you have a car payment, your home payment, whether it's rent or mortgage, any of those kinds of things. Because what you're going to do, instead of asking yourself this month, what was I trying to feel with my rent? Well, I was trying to feel like I had a house. Instead, I want you to ask yourself, what was I trying to feel when I got into this lease? Okay. For some of you, there won't be any issue per se. It's not like we're trying to find good and bad, right? We're not trying to find you were good or you were bad. We were just trying to find, what were you trying to feel? I have had scenarios where I bought a car because I was trying to feel like hot shit. 100%. 100%, right? And that is not good or bad, but you have to ask yourself, was that worth my money? Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is no. I've definitely had it where the answer is no. Okay. Same with your house. What was I trying to feel when I bought this? And if I'm being honest with myself, am I overextending myself? Is the return on investment not high enough to justify this? You will learn so much about yourself. And oftentimes the interesting thing is a lot of people, especially when they're spending more money than they're making in their personal finances, they look at the big ticket items, right? They look at the big ticket items and they go, Gina, I can't get my expenses lower than X because of all these big ticket items. What I want you to remember is raindrops make oceans. I tell this to my clients all the time. Raindrops make oceans. And actually, what I've seen is that most of the time, it's the tiny little transactions that are killing your wealth growth potential in your personal finances. I have a client who has 3 kids. They're spending probably about $20,000 a month, if not more. They have 2 properties, one of which they're working on selling right now. And she said, like, we just can't get our spending down because we have 3 kids and there's soccer and there's this and there's the mortgage and blah, blah, blah. So we sat down and we looked through her transactions. And what we found was that the biggest killer in their expenses was gas station purchases, like literally snacks at the gas station. Now, of course, there were some other things. We are working on selling the other second house because they can't afford it. But gas station purchases, when they cleaned up gas station spending, they got out of credit card debt. I know that sounds insane, but it was the Apple Watch. It was the Apple Watch, the tap to pay and buy a drink and buy a this and buy a that. And those little things just added up and they kept pushing them over budget every single month. So when we examined that, I asked her, what feeling were you trying to buy when you do these gas station purchases, or what feeling were you trying to avoid? And what she said was, I was trying to avoid feeling the feeling of being annoyed by my teenagers who are whining in the back seat. And I was trying to buy convenience, right? Like we're going over here, we're doing this, we're doing that, or it's just the habit of stopping and grabbing something. And I asked her, is it worth the cost? Is that feeling worth the cost? And when she realized, actually, no, it's not worth the cost to me. I can just manage that feeling. I can manage the feeling of being annoyed by my teenagers. I can manage the feeling of running a little bit behind and being a little bit hungry, or I can manage my time better. We started reutilizing that capital for something better. So notice how it's not good or bad. For some people, it might be like, yeah, actually the gas station purchases are a must. It's not good or bad. It's not spend less. It's spend more on the things that are worth it. Spend less on the things that aren't. Okay. So that is spending. That is spending as a wealthy business owner. And like I said, if you do nothing else, please work on this. All right. We will see you guys in the next episode. Take it easy.